And, and I had been married for 5 years when she spent our anniversary morning watching the sunrise with her first love. That day, I stood in front of the mirror and caught myself looking younger than I had in years. Maybe it was because over the past year I had been traveling whenever I got time off, flying around the world, seeing places I had never been before. So when I found 2 plane tickets to Colorado hidden in Anne's drawer on our 5th wedding anniversary, I thought she had finally planned something special for us. Back when we first got married, we had promised each other we'd honeymoon in Colorado, but her career had just taken off, and she never had the time. I thought maybe now, finally, she was surprising me. That evening, instead of the surprise I was hoping for, I got a short message from her. She was leaving on a business trip. I couldn't sleep that night. Restless, I scrolled through social media until I stumbled on her first love's profile. And there it was, his post. I made a wish 7 years ago to see the sunrise over the mountains with the person I love. Heaven has smiled upon me, and that wish has finally come true. Attached was a photo of him and Anne kissing at the summit of a mountain. My phone slipped from my hand. My chest felt hollow, like I'd already known the truth but didn't want to face it. I didn't call her. I didn't send her a message. I didn't scream or demand an explanation. I'd spent so many years chasing after and loving her with everything I had, and at that moment, I realized I was exhausted. Instead, I texted my boss. I've decided to take the transfer to Australia. When and returned, I was packing my luggage. She froze in the doorway. "John, where are you going with all this?" she asked. "Business trip," I answered without looking up. She quickly fished something out of her bag. "Oh, here's your anniversary gift." It was the watch I had pointed out in a magazine weeks earlier. She slipped it onto my wrist and asked, "Do you like it?" "It's nice," I said simply and kept packing. She stared at me in shock, her carefully prepared explanation caught in her throat. For once, I wasn't interrogating her, wasn't pressing for answers like I always had. She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. I used to think I'd never be this calm if Anne ever cheated on me. When I first saw those Colorado tickets in her drawer, I had been so happy. I even bought roses and decorated the house, waiting for her to walk in so I could surprise her. But when she came home, she barely glanced at me, went straight to the bedroom, grabbed her suitcase, and said the company had sent her on a last-minute trip. Then she left, taking the plane tickets with her. She had forgotten it was our 5th anniversary. I sat in that decorated house, staring at the candles and roses, every detail mocking me. That night I couldn't sleep. By dawn, I opened social media and saw Mark's post. Him and Anne kissing under the sunrise. My whole body went numb. When she finally came home, she wrinkled her nose and asked, "Why does the living room smell like alcohol?" "I thought you weren't coming back," I said flatly. I had quit drinking for her years ago. Even at business dinners, I pretended my tea was whiskey. But after that photo, I suddenly didn't feel like accommodating her anymore. I snapped my suitcase shut. My legs were stiff from sitting for hours, so I stood and stretched and grabbed my wrist. "John, are you just going to leave like this?" Her voice trembled. I turned and looked at her. What else should I do? Should I still run her a bath like I used to after her long work days? Pretend like nothing had happened? While I was sitting there earlier, my boss had messaged me. "John, I need to confirm something. Are you really set on transferring to Australia? You've turned this down so many times for, and that I just want to make sure." "Yes," I had replied. "Don't worry. I've made up my mind this time." It wasn't the first time he'd offered. A year ago, when the company opened a branch in Australia, he told me it was a golden opportunity. A director position, double the salary. I had wanted it badly. But every time, I turned it down because of Anne. Her childhood wasn't easy. Her mother had left for the U.S. Her father started a new family and barely acknowledged her. When she was 10, her grandmother took her in and moved in next door to my family. I still remember the Mid-Autumn Festival. She was sitting alone in front of her house, waiting for someone who never came. I had a lantern in my hand, and when I saw her huddled there, pretending she didn't care, I ran back inside, grabbed another lantern, and handed it to her. "Want to play lanterns with me? It's boring alone." She looked shocked, then shyly smiled and nodded. That night, we walked the streets with our lanterns until her grandmother came home. That was how we survived the loneliest days of our childhood. But when we went to college, she disappeared from my life. No calls, no letters. It wasn't until a year after graduation that I saw her again. She was standing under a streetlight in our old neighborhood, wearing a red coat. For a moment, I felt like time had stopped. "John, long time no see," she said. "Long time no see," I replied. Before I could say anything else, she kissed me. My heart nearly exploded. When she pulled back, she looked into my eyes and asked, "Can I be your girlfriend?" "Yes," I blurted out before she even finished. She knew I had always liked her. She had done it on purpose. Not long after, we got married. When I told her for the first time about a possible overseas transfer, she went quiet. Later that night, she drank with me for the first time and whispered, "John, are you going to leave me too?" Her eyes were red. That was when I decided I would never leave her. And so I turned down every opportunity, time after time. But in the end, she was the one who left me. When my boss messaged me again that night, he asked gently, "Did something happen between you and Anne?" I didn't answer, but he understood. He sent another message. "The past is beyond remedy, but the future is yours to pursue. Your flight is at the end of the month. Take this time to rest and recover." When Anne sat beside me later with the watch, she suggested softly, "Let's take a picture and post it." I shook my head. "No. I don't want clients to think I'm being unprofessional." Her face darkened. She tossed the watch aside. "John, are you serious? Are you still mad about what happened a month ago? Didn't I explain? We just had a few drinks at dinner and fell asleep there. Other friends were there too. What could possibly have happened between Mark and me?" If she hadn't brought it up, I would have almost forgotten how stupid I had felt a month earlier. That night, she didn't come home. I searched everywhere, worried sick, until I found her at her usual spa. She was asleep in Mark's arms. I didn't care who else was there. I lost it. We had a huge fight. She brushed it off, saying she had drunk too much. Her friends backed her up. Yeah, we were all there. What could they have done? We don't even see, and as a woman, it's pure friendship. But I had overheard those same friends before, teasing them. "You two still look at each other with love. Why not just get back together?" And never once denied it. That day, she had tried to reassure me. "I only see Mark as a friend. Nothing happened between us." But later, she grew cold and said, "If there was anything between Mark and me, there wouldn't be anything between you and me. Can you stop being so petty?" Petty. That's what she called me after I found her in another man's arms. From then on, we barely spoke. Until our 5th anniversary, when I thought she was finally making up to me. Instead, it became the final straw. Now, as she stood in front of me, agitated, demanding answers, I simply said, "You're overthinking it." I kept looking at my phone, and seemed surprised, almost thrown off, that her usual words were now coming out of my mouth. "Are you really not mad?" She frowned, clearly unconvinced. "Why would I be mad?" I looked up and asked calmly. Before she could answer, I went on, "I had some drinks. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight." Her face darkened instantly. She stood up, tossed out a sharp "suit yourself," and stormed off to the bedroom. I didn't get it. Not throwing a tantrum, not acting jealous, not pressing her for answers. Wasn't that what she always said she wanted? The next morning, something happened that I never expected. And cooked. She carried a bowl of lean meat congee to the table and called me over. "You're awake? I made your favorite congee. Come and eat." For a moment, I was stunned. As a child, and never had anyone cook for her. She grew up cooking for herself, and, as an adult, she avoided cooking altogether. I knew why, so I never pushed. I even took it on myself. I did all the cooking after we got together, even took cooking classes for her. The only time she had ever cooked for me was when I was hospitalized with appendicitis. She brought me homemade lean meat congee then, and to this day, it was the best congee I'd ever tasted. Later, when I sometimes asked her to make it again, she'd just scowl and snap, "If you want it, make it yourself or buy it. I'm not your maid." I thought I had triggered bad memories for her, so I apologized quickly and never brought it up again. But scrolling through Mark's social media later, I found out something that cut deep when they were together and always cooked. Because Mark didn't like the cafeteria food, she even rented an apartment outside just so she could cook for him every day, delivering meals to him at school. After Mark moved to this city, and still cooked for their friends' gatherings, just because he liked her food. Those 2 days, I torture myself by scrolling through Mark's feed, feeling the love in every word he wrote. It felt like I was prying into someone else's love story. But deep down I knew that love should have been mine. And came over, took my arm, and pulled a chair out for me. Her voice was unusually gentle. "John, let's have some fun these next few days. Didn't you say you wanted to see that play? I'll book tickets, and we can go together." I found it almost laughable. She had already seen it, but here she was, pretending not to know. Some time ago, a playwright I had admired for years finally brought his show to our city. I paid extra to secure tickets, hoping she'd go with me. She told me she had to work overtime that day and couldn't make it. But later that night, Mark posted, "Thank you to my princess for taking time out of her busy schedule to watch the play with me. Love you so much." Attached was a video of the play, with photos of him and woven in between. I didn't say anything. I just focused on my meal and didn't get upset. She simply pulled out her phone and started booking tickets. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes. But after searching the ticketing app for a long time, she couldn't find the performance. I glanced at my phone's wallpaper and said with disappointment, "His tour for this year is already over." Her fingers froze mid-scroll. She opened her mouth, but couldn't find the words. After a long pause, she looked at me, guilt flickering in her eyes. "I'm sorry. John, I promise I'll go with you next year." I smiled, but it didn't touch my eyes. "You said the same thing last year." The room went heavy, the atmosphere turning solid. I didn't look at her pale face. I simply stood up and said calmly, "I'm going to work." I thought she'd sulk, maybe start one of her cold wars like before. But it was as if something in her had shifted. That afternoon, she even messaged me, saying she would pick me up for dinner. I didn't think much of it. It wasn't the first time she had ditched me for Mark. Once, I had a business dinner and drank a bit too much. It was pouring outside, so I called her to see if she could pick me up. On the way, though, she got a call from Mark. He said he had a slight cold, stuffy nose, and felt uncomfortable. He asked if she could bring him some medicine. After hanging up with him, and called me in a fluster and told me to find my own way home. She said she had to deliver medicine to Mark. Then she hung up, just like that. That night, I even got a speeding ticket. At 10 p.m., I stood outside in the freezing cold, but I didn't feel the chill. My heart felt buried in snow, and the cold spread from inside me to every part of my body. Forget the fact that at that hour, in that storm, it was almost impossible to get a cab. I also had a cold at the time. By the time I got home, it was 1 a.m. She still wasn't back. She didn't come home until morning. So by then, I had long since given up hope in her. But to my surprise, the next morning, when I left for work, Anne's car was waiting outside. As I approached, I realized Mark was in the car too. Of course, that was normal by now. He sat in the passenger seat, while Anne leaned close, their faces just inches apart. His eyes seemed irritated, and Anne was tenderly blowing on them, then putting in eye drops for him. Mark hissed, "I really hate eye drops," and chided him gently, her voice full of affection. "Well, who told you to stay up all night? Do you want your eyes to get worse?" Seeing this, I clenched my fists unconsciously, my nails digging deep into my palms until the pain was sharp and real. I had already decided to give up, but watching this still hurt like a knife carving into me. Half my youth had been poured into, and all I got in return was my heart being trampled on. Just then, a car honked as it drove by, and finally looked up and saw me. Embarrassment flickered across her face. She rushed to explain. Mark's eyes were bothering him. I was on my way, so I brought him along. I was just putting in his eye drops. Mark leaned casually against Anne's shoulder and added smoothly, "Yeah, and was just putting in my eye drops. Don't get me wrong, John." Where Anne couldn't see, he winked at me, triumphant. A wave of nausea hit me, worse than any hangover. Passers-by slowed, glancing curiously at the three of us. Anne's expression soured under their stares. Seeing me still standing there, she snapped, "What are you standing there for? Get in the car." I walked up to the window, step by step. Without a word, I slipped off my wedding ring, held it up in front of her, and then let it fall. Finally, I said calmly, "Let's get a divorce," and was stunned for a moment. By the time she reacted, I had already turned and started walking away. She flung open the door, ran after me, and grabbed my arm, her voice tight. "You said you want a divorce?" "Yes." I pulled out the divorce papers I had already prepared and handed them to her. Her face twisted in anger. She ripped the papers to shreds. "You're playing the divorce card again. I told you." His eyes were uncomfortable, and I was putting in eye drops. "Is that simple thing worth a divorce? You think threatening me with divorce works? It's really annoying." Mark jogged over too, his face painted with false remorse. "John, you really misunderstood me and Anne. We're just friends. If it bothers you, I can just walk back myself." He even reached for my arm. I shoved him off violently and shouted, "Don't touch me." He staggered backward, nearly falling, and rushed to steady him, her voice full of concern. Then she spun on me, yelling, "John, putting in eye drops is such a small thing. Why are you so narrow-minded? What exactly are you upset about?" What was I upset about? Nothing more than her obvious favoritism. Finally, Anne watched Mark walk back to the car. She looked at me coldly and said, "Let's go. He wants a divorce? Let's see how long he keeps this up." And just like that, she drove away with Mark. The sky suddenly darkened. Thunder rumbled. Lightning tore the clouds open. I walked alone in the pouring rain, moving in the opposite direction from them. This was the second time I had brought up divorce with Anne. The first time was the day Mark moved here, and lied, saying she was working overtime, but in reality she had gone to welcome him. I saw the truth on her phone, that Mark was her first love. We fought badly. I accused her of being inappropriate with her ex, of not having boundaries. She shot back that I didn't respect her privacy, that I snooped through her phone, that I was always suspicious. In a fit of rage, I said the word, divorce. She didn't try to make peace. She didn't even come home for days. I was restless, couldn't sleep at night, torn apart inside. In the end, I was the one who gave in, apologizing first, saying I shouldn't have looked through her phone, shouldn't have doubted her over something so small. Only then did she return home, strutting in like a victorious rooster. She knew I loved her too much. She knew I couldn't leave her. But disappointment had piled up over time, and love eventually ran out. This time was no different. Just like before, and didn't come home for days. But this time, instead of losing sleep, I was relieved. I used the quiet to prepare for my move to Australia, buying necessities, printing documents. On the fifth day, Anne's best friend Sarah called me out of the blue. John, Anne's drunk. Can you come pick her up?" "No. We're getting a divorce. It's not appropriate, but she keeps calling your name. Don't you want to come see her?" "Oh, then you must be drunk too. The last time she was drunk, she was calling Mark's name." On the other end, I heard the sound of glass shattering. I hung up without a second thought. The next morning, I saw Mark outside my door. That's when I realized and had been with him the night before. As soon as he saw me, he put on a look of apology, and got really drunk yesterday and threw up all over herself. I had to come get her some clothes. Sigh. I told her to come back, but she wouldn't. What are you two fighting about? As he spoke, he tugged at his collar on purpose, exposing a hickey on his neck. I swallowed back my disgust. What? You're proud of being the other man? Didn't your mother teach you any decency? His face darkened. He shoved me aside and barged in. And I were together first. This was supposed to be our home. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. You have no right to talk to me like that. And with that, he pushed me with real force. And then, my head hit the wall. The impact made me feel weak. I turned around, grabbed his clothes, and was about to shove him out when Anne came back. She stepped in front of Mark, her face dark and cold. Are you still going to keep this up? Bullying him once or twice isn't enough. Try touching him again. Apologize to Mark. My eyes were bloodshot, my fists clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. Instead of hitting him, I punched the door, the sound echoing through the room, and then I pushed them both out. Get out. Both of you, get out of my house. I slammed the door shut, then slid down against it, sobbing uncontrollably. Not long after, the door was shoved open again, and rushed in, grabbed my hand, and examined it carefully. Why did you punch the wall? Doesn't it hurt? Look, you broke the skin. She fished a tube of ointment out of her pocket and gently applied it to my hand. I pulled my hand back and pushed her away. I don't want your fake concern. I'm your wife. How is caring for you fake? I already told you, I want a divorce. Don't you understand? Her expression faltered, hurt flickering across her face. Then she snapped, her voice raised. Just because I put eye drops in Mark's eyes? You're insisting on divorce over that? Fine, I admit I did wrong. I apologize. I didn't consider your feelings. What more do you want? From now on, I'll keep my distance from Mark, okay? Her frustration boiled over. She swept everything off the dining table, dishes crashing to the ground. I looked at her furious face, and in that moment realized something. After all these years, I had never really understood her. In her eyes, as long as I hadn't personally caught her in bed with Mark, she believed she had the right to act as if nothing had happened, that she could stand on her moral high ground and accuse me of being unreasonable. She just wanted me to bow my head, swallow my pain, and keep loving her blindly. I clenched my fist tighter, forcing myself to breathe, to calm down. Anne's anger softened. She took my hand again and spoke gently. John, we've been together for so many years. We're already the most important people in each other's lives. Don't talk about divorce and hurt me like that, okay? I was wrong this time. I won't do it again. This was her usual tactic. First harshness, then tenderness. Every time, I'd eventually give in. But not this time. I looked her straight in the eyes and said calmly, and if you can go a week without contacting Mark, without seeing him, then we won't get a divorce. Her face instantly lit up with a smile. It's that simple. Yes, it's that simple. But deep down, I knew she couldn't do it. The next few days, Anne started coming home early. On the first day, she brought me my favorite spicy hot pot from that place I loved. On the second, she canceled a gathering and went to the movies with me. On the third, she walked with me by the beach. On the fourth, we had dinner at home, and she cooked for us. On the last day, I made an appointment to meet Mark. He arrived an hour late. As soon as he sat down, he sneered. Why aren't you at home watching, Anne? You've got time to meet me? Are you going to warn me not to see her again? Sorry, but I can't control her friendships. That smug smile of his said everything. I'm going to take your wife. What can you do about it? I stood abruptly and punched him. The room went silent, except for Mark's heavy breathing. He clutched his face, staring at me in shock. Why did you hit me? I sat back down calmly, took a sip of water, and said lightly, You went on a trip with my wife. You kissed her. Shouldn't I hit you? His expression froze for a moment, then twisted into a sneer. You're only finding out now? I posted those videos for you to see. Since you saw them, it wasn't a waste of my time. A marriage certificate can't lock down feelings. I looked at him indifferently. As you wish. And I are getting a divorce. His triumphant smile lasted barely 3 seconds before I continued. But she doesn't agree. She said that if she could go a week without contacting you, without seeing you, then I can't bring up divorce again. Today is the last day. The look of disappointment and bitterness on his face gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. Let's see if you're capable enough to make or break our agreement. I stood up, smiling, and walked away. Mark's angry voice echoed behind me. John, just you wait. That evening, and came home right on time, cheerful, almost radiant. Maybe because it was the last day, she was in an especially good mood. She took my arm softly. John, let's go to the restaurant where we had our first date tonight. Let's make up for our 5th anniversary. We went. Same restaurant. Same table. The warm light fell on her face, making her look beautiful, almost like the aloof girl she had once been. Back then, watching me clumsily cut steak, she had laughed and said, John, why are you still so clumsy? and had always been a smart woman. She'd broken free from her family, started a business during college, and achieved financial independence. She could be romantic too. I remembered how she once pulled out a bouquet of lisianthus and placed it in front of me, saying, "Boys can receive flowers too. Let's celebrate our first date." Now, years later, that same bouquet of lisianthus was placed on the same table. The same set meal was served. "We hope you have a wonderful evening," the waiter said as the lights dimmed and music filled the air. The atmosphere was perfect, until Anne's phone rang. I didn't need to look. I knew it was Mark. Her face flustered. She hung up quickly. But the call came again and again. I stood up. "I'm going to the restroom." She visibly relaxed, her voice stiff. "Okay." When I came back, I heard Mark's voice from a distance, desperate and loud through the phone. "And I know you still have feelings for me. Why haven't you answered my calls these past few days? And I want to see you. I want to see you one last time." Anne's voice was urgent. "Don't talk nonsense." "What do you mean, one last time?" He didn't answer, just kept repeating, "I want to see you one last time, just once." And grabbed her bag, ready to leave, and bumped straight into me. She avoided my eyes. "John, I'm sorry. Mark's not in a good state of mind. I can't just ignore him. I'll go see him and come back to have dinner with you soon," she said. "Do you have to go?" "Today is the last day," I asked, and paused, her gaze turning cold. "John, I remember when you used to be empathetic. Why are you being so petty with someone who might be in danger? I promise, I'll just go check on him and come right back." And then she hurried out, hailed a cab, and vanished. I sat back down and calmly finished the dinner. When I got home, I placed the already signed divorce papers on the table, picked up my luggage, and closed the door behind me. At the airport, while waiting to board, a message from Mark popped up. It was a photo of, and bare shoulders, lying in his bed. Below it he wrote, "You lost. She's with me tonight. She's not coming back. Just get the divorce already. What do you even have to compete with me?" He was gloating, celebrating his victory. I smiled. He had won, but I hadn't lost. I saved the photo and sent it to, and with one line, "I've already signed the divorce papers." Then I blocked them both on everything. When I arrived in Australia, everything fell into place. Work went smoothly. The house I rented had a big pool, and the neighbors were kind. I assumed and would use this chance to officially be with Mark. But to my surprise, a month later, she appeared in Sydney. I saw her waiting outside my house after work. She had lost weight. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked tired, almost fragile, a far cry from the vibrant woman I had once loved. In my memories, and always presented herself immaculately. This broken version of her felt almost like a stranger. And my heart, it felt nothing. No joy, no pity, no anger. Just the quiet detachment I would feel toward a passing acquaintance. As I walked past her to open my door, she suddenly grabbed my arm. "John, I'm sorry. Things aren't what they seemed. Give me a chance." "Let me explain, okay?" I shook my head calmly. "It doesn't matter anymore. You know, our divorce isn't just about that last incident." In our 5 years of marriage, she had always been indifferent, never explaining herself. And now, when I was done, she had crossed oceans to say words she would never have said before. Her face paled. She sobbed. "It does matter. You can't condemn me to death over one photo. There should be an appeal." People were starting to stare. Embarrassed, I sighed. "Come inside." She followed me in, her voice shaking. "John, nothing happened between me and Mark that day. He drugged my drink and took that photo after undressing me. If you don't believe me, confront him directly. Please." Maybe because I stayed cold and unmoved, Anne's eyes turned red. "I know I shouldn't have gone that night. I was wrong, John. I promise I'll never contact him again. I'll stay here in Sydney with you. Can we just be together, please?" I looked at her, disappointment in my eyes. Was that the only time? The anger I had buried for so long was ready to burst. What made her think I only knew about that one incident? That she could still lie and expect me to believe her? And froze, avoiding my gaze, then nodded. I took out my phone, pulled up a video I had watched countless times, and shoved it in front of her. And did you think I was that stupid? What were you thinking when you kissed him under the sunrise on our 5th anniversary? You told me you were busy during our honeymoon. Were you really busy, or did you just want to see the sunrise with him? He's always been in your heart. Why did you come back to me that year? Did you know I had always loved you, that I would make a good backup? Letting those words out, the ones I had buried so deep, didn't bring the pain I expected. Instead, I felt relief. A heavy weight lifted off me, leaving me light, free. Anne's face went pale. All the color drained from her. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her eyes filled with pain, guilt, and regret. "John, no," she whispered. "That's not it. I love you. Mark was just my youthful regret. I'm certain now that I love you. Give me a chance to make up to you, please," she said, her eyes filled with pleading. The proud Anne, who had always carried herself with such confidence, was bowing down for the first time. But for me, it was already too late. I forced a smile and replied cruelly, "But I don't love you anymore." Anne's face went pale, as if she had been struck by lightning. She froze, muttering to herself, "That's impossible. How could you suddenly stop loving me? You can't not love me." I looked at her. She wasn't unwilling to accept me letting go because of how much she loved me. It wasn't that deep. What she couldn't accept was the truth, that I, the man who had loved her for so long, had finally stopped. "Let's have a clean break. Don't disturb my life anymore. You're free now. You can love whoever you want." I walked to the door, opened it, and signaled for her to leave. But Anne refused. She said she couldn't live without me. I was exasperated. When we were together, she spent half the month with Mark, and now she was saying she couldn't live without me. What was she doing before? In frustration, I called property management, and they escorted her out. I didn't expect Anne to still be so persistent. She rented an apartment nearby and stayed. Maybe my repeated forgiveness over the years had given her the confidence that if she just held on a little longer, I would forgive her again. I only shook my head helplessly and refused to give her another glance. She didn't care. She showed up at my door every day, bringing flowers and gifts. Because of this, I stopped even going out into my own yard. It wasn't until my neighbor, Ellie, returned from a trip and brought me a small souvenir that things finally escalated. And stormed up to me, pointed at Ellie, and demanded, "Is this the reason you've been rejecting me? How far have you two gone?" I swallowed my anger and answered calmly, "Don't project your dirty thoughts onto me. I'm not you. I still have a basic sense of morality and propriety, especially since we're not divorced yet." Her body deflated instantly. Her face was filled with shame. "John, please stop talking to me like that. I finally understand how you felt. I was so awful to you, and I hurt you." I cut her off. Then signed the divorce papers. She was silent for a long moment before tears finally fell. "Do I really have no chance at all?" I answered firmly, "No." She turned slowly, and I watched her thin frame disappear into the sunset. A week later, the divorce papers arrived in the mail, signed with her name. A year after that, I was promoted to general manager of the branch. Looking at myself in the mirror, I noticed I even seemed younger than before. I was more than satisfied with the way my life had turned. That year, every vacation I had, I traveled the world. I saw sights I had never imagined I'd see. And one night, while looking up at the stars under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, I suddenly received a message from a friend back home. Yesterday, Mark suddenly went crazy and slashed Anne's face with a fruit knife. He said that this way, Anne would never be able to leave him. I heard that after Anne came back from Sydney, Mark kept pressuring her to marry him, but Anne refused no matter what. Finally, my friend added, almost hesitantly, "And is still in the hospital. John, do you want to go see her?" I smiled and replied, "I'm traveling the world. If I happen to be in her city, I'll go see her." Flowers bloom toward the sun, and people move forward. No one will wait for you in the same place forever.